Now, while this car is very capable, I am surprised that 2017 Ferrari California T, 2015 Porsche 911 Turbo S, that's the 991.1 generation. Now, the question today is, let's say you have between $110,000 to $170,000, which is the market value for both of these cars. So let's just say $140K plus or minus 30. Which one do you go for? Both of these are the more GT spec versions, right? The Turbo S being the top trim 911, the most capable all-wheel drive, and the everyday supercar, the one that you can daily drive in comfort and also have incredible performance. And the California T is the updated version of the California. The first California that came out, a lot of people were saying it's not a true Ferrari. They weren't the biggest fan, but the California T addresses a lot of those concerns. So you got a GT Ferrari and a 911 that's kind of GT-ified as well, right? The Turbo S is going to be more comfortable, not as focused as something like a GT or even a Carrera T. We're powered by a 3.8 liter twin turbo flat six, making 560 horsepower, 516 pound-feet of torque, made it to a 7-speed PDK. We weigh right around 3,500 pounds. I think this is one of, if not the heaviest trim 911 of the 991 generation. That is several pounds heavier than other 911s. Normally you're looking at 3,100-ish range. It's of course all-wheel drive. We of course have strut front, multi-link rear, and it comes standard with Porsche carbon ceramic brakes with center lock wheels. And for those who don't know, you can tell because of the yellow calipers. This had an MSRP right under 200K, and now again between 110 to 170. The interior, it's a 911. You know it, you love it. It's classic for a reason. The build quality, we got these 18-way adjustable seats, which I very much appreciate because I got the thigh rest all the way out here for my long legs. Very nice. That's probably the seat you want if you were to get a Turbo S. We have these carbon extensions to the paddle, and the owner, Matt, does actually track this as well, which I was surprised to hear because you don't really think of a Turbo S as being much of a track car. We have a nice sunroof as well. Again, this is your everyday supercar. It's not all about the weight savings. I'm gonna put this into Sport Plus. Activates PDCC. Wow. You get shoved in the back. Wow. So much power. And so effortless too. Shockingly quiet. Not much theater here. Hearing a bit more squeaks and rattles than I would have expected too in a Porsche interior. You can tell this is prior gen damping quality though with the 991.1. A little bit more harshness to the initial impact. And getting some higher frequency transmission as well. But man, it's true what they say, this thing is an absolute rocket and so confidence inspiring with this all-wheel drive system. You just stomp your foot down and it puts the power down, claws for grip, no drama, no fuss. But yeah, we can really feel that weight penalty over other 911s, 3,500 pounds. It's not a heavyweight by any means, but it's no lightweight either. What a rocket! This thing is violent with the acceleration. Now when you start pushing it, we're gonna go in manual mode. The shifts are decently quick, but you can tell they're also prior gen in the sense that it's a little bit downshifts are quicker, but the upshifts can sometimes be a bit slower than you want. When you push it harder, they quicken, but still not to the same degree as modern PDK. Steering is a little bit on the numb side. You gotta remember, first generation of 911 to have E-Pass. The 997 was the last with hydraulic. Let's put this into regular sport mode, disable PDCC. I'm really impressed by the performance. I'm impressed by how capable this thing is. And it feels, I mean, it looks very modern, but it feels a little bit prior gen, which makes sense, right? This car is now 10 years old. It doesn't look 10 years old, but you can tell from the little details of the transmission and such, not the current gen, even the suspension, the adaptive dampers aren't quite on the same level as more recent generations. But it's also a very numb and insulating driving experience. So what you're doing here is you're not optimizing for outright engagement and pizzazz and theater, right? What you're optimizing for is comfort. You've very much reduced the NVH. And now here in just sport mode even, like you're having a nice, quiet, comfortable ride. I disabled sport mode just now, and it's like there's no issue here. There's relative comfort. Again, the squeaks and rattles are a little bit surprising for a Porsche. But you have to remember this is 10 years old. We do have only 26,000 miles on the odometer. Back into Sport Plus. Now, while this car is very capable, I am surprised that the owner, Matt, tracks this, because it wouldn't be my first pick for a track car. It's heavy, it's a little bit, again, insulated and very much optimized for street driving, and having a very capable car that can rip your face off, yet also take you to and from the grocery store with your partner and maybe your small kids in the back before they get too old to no longer be able to sit back there. But there's obviously a reason why a lot of the driving enthusiasts obsess over the GT cars, right? They're far more focused, and while the outright performance in terms of straight line speed isn't matched, you get a different experience with more theater. Such effortless speed, and they've tuned it in a way where you don't actually have much lag. It feels almost naturally aspirated. You have, for a turbocharged engine, relatively sharp throttle response, and it builds in a pretty linear fashion. You do have a good amount of low down torque too that you get from a turbocharged engine, but it's very, very quiet. You can barely even hear it. But for those who aren't in the know, it just looks like another regular 911. And little do they know that this is the top trim before you get to the special edition stuff, obviously. It does feel kind of like a Carrera Ford that's been tarted up in a way, in the sense that it has more power, but you still have the added weight. The all-wheel drive does numb the steering a little bit. It even feels like it has a slightly higher center of gravity compared to other 911s. But enough of the horse from Stuttgart. What about the prancing horse inspired by the World War I Italian fighter pilot? The 2017 California T is the successor to the original California, and the T, of course, standing for turbo, because now we're powered by a 3.9 liter twin turbocharged V8, making 553 horsepower, 557 pound-feet of torque, mated to a 7-speed DCT. This is the F154 engine. You can essentially consider it a detuned version from the 488. It's weighing in right around 4,000 pounds. That's 500 pounds heavier than the turbo, and it's a rear-wheel drive only. But this is a hard top convertible, whereas with the turbo, we just had a sunroof. We have magnetic dampers, double wishbone in the front, multi-link in the rear. Now, the Handling Speciale package, which was introduced in the 2016 model year, this is the 2017, it was $7,000 and it included 16% stiffer front springs, 19% stiffer rear springs, reprogrammed MagneRide suspension, new black exhaust silencers, which actually results in a 3 decibel sound increase, 30% quicker upshifts, 40% quicker downshifts, a rear diffuser in dark matte gray, and a front grille in dark matte gray as well. MSRP for this was a bit higher, $235,000, but again, market value right now is almost identical to the 911 Turbo, from $110,000 to $170,000. This one was actually just purchased for $161,000 with 7,000 miles. We have PS4S rubber, 245 section width in the front, 285 section width in the rear. You got these gorgeous seats, and I love the light tan color as well. You got your drive controls here, you have your screen here. It's such a nice cabin, well-designed, yellow tack. It feels very special when you get in. Got our prancing horse on the key. Now both the, I'd say both the Turbo S and this California T have really good ergonomics, regardless of whether you're short or tall. There's a lot of adjustability, so you can get to just the right position that you want. I'm 6'1", slightly leg biased, and you're able to telescope the wheel just right. You got the shift lights, nice touch. Different modes here. A little Manatino. We're gonna go to the sport, and then we'll enable bumpy road as well to test out that MagneRide. Transmission controls can be a little bit confusing with this DCT, so reverse, auto, and then PS. I'm not sure what it stands for, but maybe paddle shifter, because that's essentially your manual mode. Let's put this into manual shifting mode. There we go. Engine is instantly far more forward and present compared to that Turbo S. Steering is a little bit unnatural, really fast steering ratio, and because the car is heavy and it takes a moment to set, I find myself actually turning into the corner and then having to readjust because it's turning in too much. The Porsche is definitely more natural when it comes to steering. You can feel the added weight here, but it feels actually less confidence inspiring. And I don't know why it keeps short shifting me. I want to hear this engine sing all the way to redline, and I can't get the manual mode to work. I'm sure that is something silly I'm doing that I'm overlooking. I'm gonna enable bumpy road mode with the press of the button there. So not as confidence inspiring as the Turbo. It has all-wheel drive, just the way that Porsche has tuned it. But man, this has so much more theater. I like that Ferrari, even though this is a twin turbocharged engine, they keep that exhaust note more forward. And they've even tuned the engine in a way that it feels a bit more linear. Let's see if we can get this all the way up to redline here. Love the shift lights. Nice touch. It's like so much more theater to this car versus the Turbo. Yellow tack. Wow, on braking can really feel that weight. Oh, getting a little lively there at the rear. Bumpy road mode is really impressive technology. Now, obviously in the 458, which we've reviewed a couple times on this channel, it's even more impressive there. More dedicated sports car, lighter weight. This being a GT, far more softly sprung, and you can feel that in the body roll. It takes a moment to set. But the way that MagneRide can absorb these imperfections on a bumpy road is just really... it's a really great technology. I think this was like the... I think this was maybe an early gen, like maybe second gen if it's like the 458. Now the downside is you still don't get that that piercing character change at the high end when it comes to naturally aspirated Ferrari engines. And there's no way around that. When you go twin turbo, you're gonna lose some of that magic at the upper rev range. Plenty of grunt here. But man, I wish there was just a little bit more theater there. Especially when I get behind the wheel of a Ferrari, I expect the engine to really sing. Brakes don't really have much of anything at the initial first centimeter, and then you get into it, and then it becomes more linear. Steering, not very communicative, gives you a little bit of information. I would honestly prefer the 911 steering just because it's far more natural. The overly fast ratio here takes a moment to adjust. I love the theater in the transmission. On the upshifts, it gives you that hard jolt in the back, which is intentional. They want that theater. Versus the Porsche philosophy is, let me give you the perfectly smooth shift, both upshift and downshift every single time. Ferrari, the Italian mindset, wanting a bit more of that passion to come through, that theater, that excitement. Now, obviously, driving both of these cars on a twisty, bumpy canyon road like this is not what they're designed for. These are cars that are more GT focused. But still, that being said, they're handling these roads all right, especially for a car that weighs 4,000 pounds. I think that this California is doing a particularly good job. Let's give you another pull. Upshifts, I like that. You know, it's interesting, even the actuation of the paddles. You can tell that these cars were designed several years ago, because modern paddles, they want to have a smaller actuation, like a shorter throw, and then also have extra crispness to the beginning and the end of that throw. And then when it comes to these cars from the 2010s, much longer throws and smoother with the actuation, such that, maybe I shouldn't say smoother, but less crisp, less of a fine delineation. It kind of rolls into it a bit more. I definitely prefer steering wheel mounted paddles, like in the Porsche, by the way, over column mounted, you know, mid corner. You're like, yeah, where's the paddle? I need a downshift or upshift. Now, even though this is not the intended use case for either of these cars to bomb a bumpy canyon road, they're both able to, right? That's the beautiful thing about these multi-purpose GTs. You can putter around town, go to and from work with your significant other in relative comfort, and then when you want to have some fun on the twisties, it comes alive, it wakes up. Now, the owner, Ian, told me that he does track this car, actually. He's taking it to the track tomorrow, but he intentionally doesn't push this as hard on the track, which makes sense. This is not a car that I would really want to push to 9 or 10 tenths on the track, given the weight, given the, I mean, you don't really see a Ferrari California on track for multiple reasons. But if it was my money, the Porsche is more capable, more confidence inspiring, far more muted, a little bit more under the radar. The Ferrari has more theater, has a little bit more passion and drama, and it's also a Ferrari at the end of the day. If it was my money, I'd be leaning towards the Ferrari California T, simply because I want to be able to drive the car hard and have a bit more excitement. And while the Porsche impresses you with the capability and the performance, it's also a little bit more numb. Whereas the Ferrari gives you a bit more theater. It's still very much on the softer side. It's very much not a sports car Ferrari, but directionally, it feels to have a bit more theater to it than something like the 911, which the Turbo S does feel very clinical and a bit insulated. And in terms of driving it on a canyon road, yes, the Porsche does give you more confidence, it has more performance, it is more capable, but I like that this is a little bit more razor edge. I can get the tail out a bit, and it keeps me on my toes as a driver a bit more when I am pushing it on these canyon roads. And that's more of a personal preference thing, but I get a lot more fun and enjoyment when a car asks something of me as well. My friends, let me know what you think with a comment down below. Big shout out to Fenton from the Zygreen channel for making this review possible. Big thanks to the owners Ian and Matt for letting me review their car. If you want your car reviewed, visit us on jabalandcars.com, fill out the form on the homepage, and I'll see you all in that next one.